What's up, guys? It's your boy Milano Miguel back at it again with another video. Today, I will be doing a Serie A 2019-2020 season review. And today, I have a very special guest with me. My guest is Ricky Buzz. Let's welcome Ricky Buzz. Hey,
Yo,
Ricky,
what's
how
up,
you doing,
guys?
man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well myself. Excited to do this Serie A review with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome, bro. First time doing it.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do?
I'm from Texas. I'm an Inter Milan fan. That's pretty much it.
Rivals. Uh, so as to being an Inter Milan fan, how did you become an Inter Milan fan, and how did you get introduced into Calcio?
I got introduced to Calcio around 2008. My dad took me to an Inter game, and it happened to be an Inter Milan game, surprisingly. Uh, that's pretty much how I became an Inter fan.
Okay. So as an Inter fan, what is your favorite memory?
That's hard to choose. um, can we come back to that?
Yeah, we can come back to that. I would
Alright.
assume that you would say winning the treble in 2010, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely a good one. But okay, let's see. What is the worst Inter Milan memory that you have so far?
Uh, I think it was when we lost to Milan in or we drew Milan in the final minute of one match a few years ago.
Yeah.
Forgot which one it was. It was literally like the last kick of the game.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that game.
Uh,
Yeah, but that's all the questions that I have for you. If you have anything of the best Inter Milan memory that springs back into your head, you can always just give it a ring. Um,
yeah. All right.
but as to that, we're gonna get into the season review. So we're gonna start talking about the season expectations for both of our favorite clubs. You are the Inter fan, so I'd like to hear the season expectations for an Inter fan.
Well, for me, we had appointed Antonio Conte as the new manager. Uh, Not a lot of people had very high expectations. Most people said second or third. I had us at finishing third. Uh, in the league, Champions League, I assumed we would get to at least the next stage, but going out in the group stage was pretty poor. But now we're in the Europa League, and we just beat Getafe, and we'll more than likely face Bayern Leverkusen. But
How
my
do you feel?
expectation. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, how do you feel about the matchup with Bayern Leverkusen coming up? Are you confident?
It looks like it'll be interesting. Might be a tight game, but I could see us going through. But it won't be easy.
Definitely. And how did you feel about the appointment of Antonio Conte at the beginning of the season?
A very interesting one. Out of all of the managers that were available at the time, another Laurent Blanc. There were a few other managers available. Even Allegri had just left Juventus, but still the Juve connections there. A lot of people were skeptical. And there's still some Inter fans, even to this day, that are a bit skeptical of the appointment, and it doesn't make sense. But so far, he's done a good job. But there are a few issues that need addressing with Antonio Conte.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Expectations as a Milan fan, we had just finished prior to the previous season. We had finished fifth, 1 point off a Champions League spot with Gattuso. Um, some issues with what Gattuso wanted for the next season, so Gattuso decided to leave the club. We decided to hire Marco Giampaolo, who was previously at Sampdoria. Um, I was a bit skeptical about Sampdoria letting go of Giampaolo like that, especially because that season before he was let go, he had that amazing season with Fabio Quagliarella, and he scored. He was a capocannoniere, so I was like,
Yeah.
why are they letting go of him? But nevertheless, another rebuild. We had some really good signings come in. We had Theo Hernandez, Ismail Benacer, Rade Krunic. So it was looking a bit positive, but I had doubts about top four. The expectation was to make top four and get back in the Champions League. We haven't been in the Champions League since 2012, which is a long time. So yeah, those were the expectations for the seasons. Now, as to expectations for the seasons, do you think your team met the expectations?
League wise, yes. Europe wise, no. In terms of basically getting knocked out of the group stage, because this happened last year under Spalletti.
Right. I actually had Inter winning the Serie A this season. For me, I had that favor of Antonio Conte always winning in his first season. He always managed a way to do so. And I think that although Inter did come in second this season, I think that if they didn't crumble in the times that they did crumble, Antonio Conte would have won the season easily.
Yeah.
As for Champions League, I did not have you guys making it out the group stage, so I made the right call on that one. I just felt that Antonio Conte was more focused on Serie A and not on Champions League. He knew that he would get a top four finish again, so I felt like that was his focus, Serie A, trying to build this new team that he wants. He had a
Yeah.
lot of players come in throughout both transfer windows, so
Yep.
that's how I looked at it. For Milan, we're trying to get top four. We didn't get top four. We came in sixth. Um, for me, sixth isn't terrible because we can make it into Europa League, which is a European competition, which gives us more revenue for the season, which is good. Um, but it still sucks to not be in Champions League. You know, Champions League
Yeah.
is just the top tier of football. Like every team wants to be a Champions League team. So yeah. So let's talk about the league table and how the league table shaped up.
Okay.
Not surprising, but Juventus did win the league once again, 9 times in a row. In first place with 83 points. And then Inter Milan were in second place with 82 points. How did you feel about that?
I was pretty stunned. Huh, we could have won it. Because I went back and looked at the table, how many matches. I think it was what 20. We had 10 draws, 4 losses, and 24
Yep,
wins. And it's like all those draws either could have been wins or just kept hold of a win and not concede. It's like,
very true, very true. And a lot of the games that Inter did draw, Inter had a 1 or 2 goal lead, and they just crumbled in the last couple of minutes of the game.
yep,
Atalanta, yet once again, making top four. They made top four last season for the first time, getting that fourth place spot. Um, it's seeming like they are no longer a Cinderella story. They actually have a plan. Their style of football works for them. And they are the best attacking team in Europe. Atalanta scored 96 goals in Serie A this season.
yeah. Well, it was 96. I thought it was 98. I thought they
Yeah,
only needed 2 against us to get 100.
yeah, you're right, you're right.
Oh, okay.
I must have wrote that wrong. Yeah, 98.
All right.
But yeah, very impressive for them. They had 23 wins, 9 draws, and 6 losses. Uh, Personally, not a fan of Atalanta because they gave us that 5-0 beating at their stadium, which was very embarrassing. But you got to give credit where it's due. Atalanta has the wage bill of a second tier English team, which is absolutely ridiculous. And for them to be making top four yet again, that's huge revenue for them. And I feel like Atalanta is going back to the drawing board and they're going to invest in more talent. Um, think about Malinowski. Nobody knew who he was before the season,
Yeah.
but he came this season and he just played excellent football along with the rest of Atalanta's team. Atalanta really knows how to grow their players and develop them and then sell them for profit. They did that with Giacomo Bonaventura, Frank Kessié, Andrea Conti, you name it.
Yep.
So they are seeming to become a very established football club in Italy. In fourth place, we had Lazio with 78 points, tied with Atalanta, but Atalanta was above them on goal difference. Lazio actually seemed like Scudetto contenders earlier in the season before the coronavirus pandemic went out. But at the restart of football, they seem to lack motivation. They don't have much depth in their squad, and that's what really cost them, their mentality and their depth.
Yeah. Literally, between them and Juve, they were just dipping. It was like
Yeah,
a flip of a coin. You don't know what you're going to get.
definitely. It was very surprising to see them beat Juve in the first two legs. They beat them in the Serie A and they also beat them in the Supercoppa, which to me was just an astonishing performance. They really shut down Juve in those two games that they won.
Yeah. And then post restart, drop. And then even the second match against Juve had just gone.
Yeah.
There was reports that like there was a dressing room like fighting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully, after this is all done, they get reinforcements and have a good go again.
Yeah, I'm definitely confident in them coming back the next season with reinforcements and with a better mentality. As to the locker room fights and arguments, not much known about that. That happens at every club. It's more of
Yeah.
how you handle the situation. Um, I remember a couple years ago there was a report about locker room stuff with Juve, but they still managed to win Scudetto that year.
Yeah.
Fifth place, we had AS Roma with 70 points. Roma, an interesting season for them. They had a very poor start to the season. Um, it was at one point where I was like, man, I don't think Roma's going to get top five in the league. But they managed to muster the courage to pull the results. Um, they had some very big games in which they won. But yeah, I think Eden Dzeko was the talisman on this team. Him and Kolarov really led this team. It's a young team, very different. Roma has this changing football team with the new owners, and it's not the Italian way and whatnot. So I think that was a lot of the stress and pressure upon them that brought them down this season. But they managed to place fifth, which isn't terrible for them. I didn't see them really being in top four, but impressive from them.
Yeah. I actually had them like fourth, getting Champions League football again.
Yeah. On to sixth place, my beloved Milan with 19 wins, 9 draws, 10 losses, and 66 points. Milan had a terrible start to the Serie A season. They lost to Udinese in the first game of the season, which to me was just like a head scratch because we didn't play terrible. We just weren't able to capitalize on our opportunities. And then from there, it went downhill. In our 10th game, we decided that we were going to part ways with the new manager, Marco Giampaolo. Rumors came out that Luciano Spalletti would be taking over the ex-Interbox. But then, out of nowhere, Stefano Pioli appeared in the mix, and the beloved Milan Twitter decided that they would hashtag Pioli out. And it's like, yo, like, give this guy a chance. So,
Yeah, he hasn't even stepped foot through the door yet.
no, literally. But Pioli hasn't had the best track record for him in his history. He's managed at Lazio, Inter, and Fiorentina, and at those clubs, he has one good season, and then the club just takes a huge dip. But major respect to Stefano Pioli. He was there when Davide Astori passed away, and he managed to navigate that team to avoid relegation. So very, very much someone who can lead a team who is in a crisis, and that is exactly what Milan were in before he walked through the door. In his first couple of games, in his first game, he managed to pull off a draw with Lecce, a 2-2 draw. I saw some positives from there, and I just hoping that things would get better. In January, we brought in Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which really helped us. It was still up and down. We lost to Genoa in March before the shutdown of football, and that was when Milan fans started to get worried. But after the restart of football, we managed to pull off an undefeated run. We beat Juve 4-2. We beat Lazio 3-0. We managed to pull off a draw with Atalanta. Just crazy stuff from Milan, and we managed to get Europa League.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was stunned by the 4-2 beating of Juventus. I was like, wow. I was like, all right, once Rabiot had did that run, I was like, all right, I don't think they're coming back.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I had predicted that Milan was going to win against Juve, but not in the manner that it happened. Once we went down 2-0, I was like, oh, man, this game is done. Like, there's no hope. And somehow we managed to score 4 goals.
That's exactly what we did to y'all.
Yeah, that's what happened in the derby. Very, very good point there. Napoli with 7th place. They had their fair share of trouble with Carlo Ancelotti and the coup d'etat that was brewing up between the players. Ancelotti left midway through the season, and none other than ex-Milan boss Gennaro Gattuso took over. Gattuso came over, and he put some discipline into that Napoli camp, and Napoli started to bring results. They won the Coppa Italia against Juventus.
Yep.
Very impressive. They managed to get a draw against Barcelona in the Champions League, and they will be playing them again this weekend. Hopefully, Napoli does advance, because that would be really nice to see. Not so keen on Barcelona, but very impressive turnaround from Napoli, even though they didn't finish above Milan. Very impressive for them. Sassuolo coming up in 8th. What do you think about that?
Nothing too much. I mean, they did put in a lot of hard work.
For me, I feel like Sassuolo was the underdog or the wild card of the season. I didn't really think that they would place this high in the table, but they managed to do it with their strike force of Jeremy Boga and Domenico Berardi, and even Caputo stepping up very big for Sassuolo this season. Locatelli, the ex-Milan player, seemed to take his game to another level, and I think that these components are very good for them to continue to build on. There's always rumors that Berardi is going to leave Sassuolo, but at the end of the day, he never leaves. So hopefully they can keep him. Hopefully they can go on. They play some very interesting, entertaining football. They had a couple games this year where it was like 4-3, 4-4. So, yeah, very
3-3.
interesting. Yeah.
Where did Calgary and Hellas Verona finish?
Hellas Verona finished in 9th place.
And Calgary?
Cagliari finished. Give me a second. Cagliari finished in 14th.
Wow.
They took a
I
dip.
only, I only asked because I remember like towards Christmas, I swear like Hellas Verona or it was Calgary or Hellas Verona were doing
They
pretty
were
well.
both in the top 6.
Yeah.
At the halfway mark of the season. But yeah, Fiorentina placed 10th with 49 points. They've also taken a dip in their football. They signed Frank Ribery, which I thought was really good for them with the experience that he has, but he was injured for majority of the season and didn't really play.
Yep.
Chiesa didn't have the best of seasons.
Yeah.
And they managed to bring Beppe Iacchini another season. They are extending his contract.
What do you think?
Very
Like, what do you think they should have done? Because I was really excited to see Frank Ribery come, and then it's like he's injured. It's like, oh wow, well, I would say I was wasted. That could have been a
Yeah.
spot for someone else.
I feel like for Fiorentina, their team is very young. They have a very young core with Castrovilli, Chiesa, Cutrone. All those players are very young. Even Milinkovic, who might leave this summer transfer window. But they have a very young core. And I think that if they already established, a relationship with the coach Iacchini right now, they should give him another year. Kind of like what Milan is doing with Pioli. We have a very young side, and I think what's really important for these young sides is building that chemistry and then
Yeah.
also building that mentality and having experienced players guide them along the path.
Yeah.
11th place, we had Parma with 49 points as well. Parma, I think they did really well this season with Gervinho, Kuleveski, their goalkeeper, just amazing saves that he's done this season. I didn't expect them to be an 11th. I put them a little bit lower in the table, but very impressive football for them. Kuleveski is definitely a talent that Juve has got on their hands because that man is a steamroller.
Oh yeah. Man, he was going back to them in January, or stayed at Parma, but was purchased in
Yeah,
January.
he was purchased in January, stayed at Parma for the rest of the season, and he will be going to Juve. Next, we have Bologna in 12th place with 47 points, managed by Sinisa Mihailovic, who had leukemia and came back. Very strong man. I didn't really expect Bologna to be this high in the table as well, but again, very young core team. You have talented players there, and Mihailovic knows how to bring out the talent in players. He was the one who decided to give Gianluigi Donnarumma his debut as a Milan first team goalkeeper, and now Gianluigi Donnarumma has over 200 appearances in the Milan first team. Udinese finishing in 13th with 45 points.
That's surprising. Had them
Very
finishing, or
surprising.
I could have seen them finishing a little bit lower, more towards like relegation, but being safe.
I honestly thought that they were going to finish right above relegation. Cagliari in 14th with 45 points. Disappointing. I had them a little bit higher up, maybe like 10th in the table.
Yeah, we loaned out Russian Angolan to them, and he looked like he was having a phenomenal first half of the season.
He was having a great first half of the season, but then injuries caught up to Cagliari and all their talented young players and experienced players such as Nainggolan and Pellegrini. Those guys got out and everything just went downhill from them. But they managed to stay afloat. They didn't manage. They managed to not get into a relegation zone, which is good for them. Sampdoria finished in 15th with 42 points. Kind of surprising for me as well. I thought that Sampdoria would have been a little bit closer to relegation. I thought they'd be second to last for relegation, but they managed to pull the strings with Claudio Ranieri at the helm for them. I think it was a disappointing season for Fabio Quagliarella and Manolo Gabbiadini. I feel like they didn't really perform or produce to the best of their ability this season. Torino managed to finish in 16th place with 40 points. Very disappointing season for Torino. I don't understand what happened, but they just completely lost it. Torino, I expected them to be somewhere outside of the Europa League spot, but I don't know what happened with them. They just could not string things together this season. Genoa finishing in 17th place with 39 points. Genoa managing to escape the relegation battle. Really thought that Genoa always manages to pull off things like this and not get relegated, which is very good. Good for them for escaping relegation. They have some young players and also some experienced players such as Shone and Christian Zapata. But all in all, congrats to them for not getting relegated. That final match day where they had that crazy game. Very interesting football from them. Then we have Lecce, who has been relegated to Serie B. They were promoted to Serie A at the beginning of the season. They managed 35 points, which to me isn't the best. They only had 9 wins, 8 draws, and 21 losses. Kind of very pragmatic football from them. They had experienced players such as Ricardo Saponara, Gabriel, Gianluca Lapadula, but that was just not enough. I got to give it to Mancosu for being an outstanding player for them, but yet again, it was not enough for this side to stay afloat above the relegation battle. Brescia, who is newly promoted, also relegated with 25 points. Brescia just had quite one of the most interesting starts to the season. They didn't do terrible at the start, but then they had turmoil and drama. They had issues with racism against Mario Balotelli. I think that Alfredo Donnarumma really underperformed this season for them, didn't do his best. And Sandro Tonali, very good Sandro Tonali, a very good, talented players for them. I just think that Brescia were underwhelming for the season that they had. Torrigrasso, very interesting player. I think that if they manage to keep them, they are lucky. But I think that other Serie A clubs will try to call on him. And then last but not least, we had Spal finishing 20th, getting relegated. Spal managed to stay afloat for 2 seasons. I remember last year on the last match day, we had to play Spal trying to get into Champions League. And it was quite a thriller. It was a 3-2 win. Frank Kessie scoring a penalty to win the game. But yeah, I didn't expect Spal to get relegated this season. Managing to stay afloat for 2 seasons, I thought that they had the experience, they had the knowledge to be able to carry on with this. So it was very strange to see Spal get relegated. Andrea Petagna will be moving on to Napoli, the ex-Milan striker that was playing as Spal this season. Very good move for him. And I think that as he's moved,
Should be back. There we go.
hey man, we were just talking. I was just talking about Spal, who finished in 20th, and how they managed to stay afloat the 2 seasons prior to this. But I didn't expect them to get relegated this season. You would think that after having 2 seasons staying in Serie A and retaining your striker Andrea Petagna, that they would have finished above the relegation zone, but they didn't. What do you think about them finishing in the relegation zone? Got some technical difficulties.
Can you hear me much better now?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Much better.
Yeah. So we were just talking about relegation. Um, and the three teams that got relegated were Lecce, Brescia, and Spal. What do you think about that? Did you have any of those teams getting relegated?
I didn't see Brescia getting relegated. I thought that was pretty interesting because Balotelli goes back to his boyhood club, and it was side's pretty young, mixed with like a few older players. But yeah, I didn't see Brescia getting relegated or Spal.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think for relegation, I had Lecce, Genoa, and Udinese.
Uh-oh. And Lecce ended up being safe.
They finished safe.
Yeah, they ended up finishing like out of the relegation zone.
No, it was Genoa who finished out of the relegation zone.
Mm.
Genoa managed to get a 4-point gap on them. Lecce finished in 18th with 35 points, Brescia finished in 19th with 25, and Spal finished in 20th with 20 points.
Oh.
Yeah, so Lecce almost made it safe, but Genoa managed to beat them out of it by a couple points. And I think Lecce also was a team that kind of shot themselves in the foot. Um, they had a couple games where they had the lead and just couldn't hold it. They had some unlucky goals that went in against them. There was a couple goals that just like weird, odd deflections that just ended up in the back of the net as an own goal. Um,
Yeah, they were our first match of the season. I think we beat them 3 or 4-0.
yeah. But on to some of the season stats. We had Atalanta scoring 98 goals, which was quite the impressive feat. Inter were right behind them, scoring 80 goals, and Lazio in third with 77 goals. Um, I didn't really expect Inter and Lazio to be a really top goal scoring team. Um, I didn't even expect Atalanta with it. I thought that it would be Juventus, Napoli, and then possibly Roma, but Roma are kind of iffy. But yeah, it was interesting to see Atalanta, Inter, and Lazio on this, and these are all teams that can end up contending next season for Scudetto race. Um, as you can see in the table, Juventus only won the Scudetto by 1 point,
Yeah,
which was quite interesting. They had somewhat of an abysmal second half of the season. They
yeah.
just started dropping points rapidly after that loss to Milan.
And then it was 3 wins out of 10 total
Yeah,
since the restart. Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Um, Gabriel of Lecce had the most saves in Serie A this season with 177 saves, but he did not manage to help his team escape the relegation battle. They will be going back to Serie B. Ciro Immobile Capocannoniere with 36 goals, tying Gonzalo Higuain's record. Um, but people are saying that because Immobile scored 14 penalties this season, it's not the same as Higuain, who scored, I believe, 3 penalties that season that he scored 36. Um, I mean, penalties are a part of the game. Yes, they're not open play goals, but you got to
yeah,
give credit where it's due. The man scored 36 goals.
yeah. Yeah,
It was
goal's a goal.
definitely, yeah, right, exactly. It was also definitely very interesting to see Immobile and Ronaldo going head to head for that Capocannoniere race.
Yeah. Surprised I actually didn't have I didn't have Ronaldo in the mix. I assumed it would be Lukaku coming in off his first season,
Mm-hmm.
maybe getting up there or getting close. At least the second, but I didn't see Ronaldo coming up.
Yeah, for me, I had Immobile with Capoconieri. I've been an Immobile follower for quite some time, since his first season at Torino after he left Juventus, which is kind of ironic. You leave Juventus and you do so well in Italian football, but Immobile has quality. He can finish. He knows how to make the right runs, and with the proper service that he has gotten this season, he's been able to rack up those goals. At one point, he was averaging a goal a game, which was absolutely insane. Um, but yeah, I had him being Capoconieri, and I got that right. As for Ronaldo, I thought that he'd come in second. He did struggle in the first half of the season, but he managed to pick up his feet. Ronaldo's a fighter. Um, we've known that. We've seen how he reacts to things in the Champions League. He's that talisman for his team. And in the second half of the season, we saw that come out from him. He just took that chip on his shoulder and started scoring goals for Juve. Um,
Yeah.
as for Lukaku, very impressive first season. I think he had 23 goals.
Yeah, 23 goals in his first
Very
season.
impressive for him. Many people were doubting him because of his stint at United, which that United team was a bit abysmal. But yeah, very interesting season. Papu Gomez had the most assists with 15 assists for Atalanta. It was a close race between him and Luis Alberto, and I think Alberto had 12
13?
or 13. Yeah.
I was going to look it up right now, but laptop's off.
Don't worry, I got you. I can look it up. But yeah, I think it was a very interesting race between the two sides. Luis Alberto just completely had an amazing season. I think he just managed to show. Yes. So Papu Gomez had 16, Alberto had 15. So it's very close.
Oh.
But yeah, I think Luis Alberto and Papu Gomez both very important parts of their team. I think for Papu, it's more of the way that Atalanta play. They average so many goals in a game that it was bound for him to catch that Capoconieri. Oh snap! I said Capoconieri. That's top goal scorer. Um, but yeah, very impressive from these two players. Experienced in Serie A, and I think that they played outstanding football for their teams this season.
Ugh. There you go. Oh, yeah.
Another interesting stat is Cristiano Ronaldo averaged the most shots on target, with averaging 6 shots on target a game.
Well, yeah. Does that also include free kicks?
I don't believe that includes free kicks. And
Okay.
I don't think Ronaldo is the designated free kick taker for Juventus. Either way, I think it was Pjanic. So yeah, Gianluca Mancini with the most yellow cards. This man had 16 yellow cards, and he got a red card today against Sevilla in the Europa League. Shout out to Uncle Sharma. Salute you. Eden Dzeko of Roma, who had the most aerial duels won this season with 135. Very, very interesting. Uncle Sharma asked, who is your worst player of the season? And I was just about to get into that. Ricky, who was your worst player of the season?
Padelli. It's crucial that you have a good backup goalkeeper. And Padelli, my God. I swear, I feel if we had Handanovic, that Lazio game,
we would have beat them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oof.
For me, I picked two players. These are my flops of the season. Flop number one is Kuma Babakar, who had 25 appearances and 3 goals. The man has Serie A experience. He played for Fiorentina, in which I think he scored 10 goals in 22 games. And then he played for Sassuolo, which he scored a little bit less, but he scored 3 goals this season, which is kind of disappointing for a striker. My next worst player of the season is Herving Lozano, who had 26 appearances, 4 goals and 1 assist. Um, at the beginning of the season, Herving Lozano looked like he was on point. He grabbed a couple goals. He nabbed a goal against Milan. But to have 1 assist and 4 goals and to be a winger, that's just not enough. That's not enough provision to your team. So that's why I take him as a flop for this season.
I'd give Adrian Rabiot a shout.
I cut Rabiot some slack because he didn't play any football for a year. PSG had him playing with basically the second team. So you can understand why he wasn't as fit, but now he's back in form. Think about the goal that he scored against Milan. I was just like, that's not Rabiot-esque, that's not like him. So he definitely turned it around. So congrats to him. So Ricky, who is your player of the season for the Serie A?
Oh wow! Damn, so many to choose from. Immobile. 36 goals. Okay. Yeah, 36 goals.
Yeah, definitely impressive from Immobile. For me, though, I chose Luis Alberto because he was just such an integral part for this Lazio team. Nobody thought that Lazio would be a Scudetto contender. And the fact that they held on to second place and were just 1 point away from Juventus before the coronavirus pandemic was just absolutely outstanding. And majority of that was because of the service of Luis Alberto. The midfield that Lazio has is pretty good with the likes of Marco Parolo and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, but Luis Alberto was just finding those through balls for Immobile and feeding him the service so that he can find goals. The fact that he didn't get the most assists, I feel like that kind of downplays his season, but he had an amazing season. On to the best player for your club, Inter Milan. Who was the best player of the season?
I had said this in my my last match review. It'd be between two players, Stefan de Vrij in defense, because he's done really well this season, or Lukaku coming in. So for me, I'd say Lukaku and then Stefan de Vrij.
I'd say Stefan de Vrij because he's like the anchor for that back three, in my opinion. Without Stefan de Vrij back there, it seems like they're a bit lost. Don't get me wrong, Bastoni is a very, very good young center back, and he's probably going to be a starter for the Azzurri in the upcoming years. But I think that without de Vrij, there'd be no backbone to Inter's defense. And Stefan de Vrij also manages to always score important goals for Inter. He scored that one goal. That one goal that flared that comeback in the Derby della Madonnina. Stefan de Vrij, definitely, I agree with you on that. My player of the season.
I was gonna say, I think he scored in the comeback against Parma, or if it was Parma.
Yeah, I believe so too. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
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 it
so
was
it comes
him,
up.
then Bastoni, then Moses. Yeah.
Yeah.
As to my player of the season for Milan, it's kind of tough, but I'm gonna give it to Alessio Romagnoli because Romagnoli played every single minute of Serie A before he got injured, which was I think before the last two games of the season. So yeah, and he's also the captain of Milan, so he has to lead these players. But honorable mentions for me, player of the season, would be Gianluigi Donnarumma because he has saved Milan from plenty of goals. Um, and then I'd have to say Ante Rebic because when he first appeared at Milan, everybody doubted him and thought that he looked unmotivated and a bit overweight. Um, but that second half of the season, Rebic scored 11 goals. It's a very impressive turnaround for these two players.
Was that when he was linking up really well with Zlatan?
Yes. We got a question from Uncle Sharma, and he says, best coach of the season.
Gasparini.
I totally agree. Yeah, Gasparini for me.
Sorry, very hit or miss. Kind of very below standard.
Yeah.
Inzaghi, still not sure about.
Yeah.
And Conte's first season. So, but still.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Gasparini for making Atalanta another top four side yet again for the second season in a row.
As well as they're
Absolutely.
running sorry, I was just gonna say as well as they're running the Champions League as well. What
Yeah,
they're
I was
doing there.
just about to touch on to that. Yeah, the run in the Champions League. It did not seem that Atalanta was going to get out of the group stages, and they managed to find a way out of the group stages. And now it looks like they're going to beat PSG in the quarterfinals without Kylian Mbappe. So I think Gasparini definitely is coach of the season. He's managed to pull off these amazing games 7-0, 5-0, 6-0. Very impressive. Scoring 98 goals, just he wins it, in my opinion. So he's the best coach of the season.
Yeah, actually, I think Kylian Mbappe is back. I think they're gonna miss Verratti, Marco Verratti.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting.
It's definitely going to be an interesting game. Any standout matches for you this season?
The 4-2 comeback against Milan, 3-1 against Napoli in the first half of the season. I don't think there's anything else. The comeback against Parma with Ryan Bastoni scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Those come to mind.
Agreed. Uncle Sharma says, no mention for Benacer for Milan player of the season. And yes, no mention for Benacer for Milan player of the season because he had the rockiest start to his Milan career. He had 14 yellow cards accumulated this season. And for him, I know it's a bit of pressure because he played for Empoli prior the season before. And Empoli's not a big club compared to Milan. But for me, the fact that he had Serie A experience and he wasn't able to condone himself in a mature manner to avoid the yellow cards that he got, which led to suspensions of him missing out on vital games that we needed him for. So because of that, I retract the player of the season mention for him. I'd say honorable mention Kessié because Kessié has been a tank since the restart. It seems like nobody can get past him. He put Sergei Milinkovic-Savic in his pocket against Lazio. So yeah, that's why I didn't mention Benacer as player of the season. But yeah, very interesting season for Serie A. Ricky, what are 3 things that need to be addressed, whether positive or negative?
Okay. Team mentality. For some reason, in some matches, as you've seen in the Champions League, Barcelona, Dortmund, and then a few matches here in the Serie A where we drew or we lost, we just happened to collapse coming out of the second half. But something with the team mentality, which since Antonio Conte's got a feel of the team now, he can maybe address it, as well as maybe substitutions coming on way too late. I know this is an issue that Chelsea fans complained about back then when he was at Chelsea. He's not subbing on way too late. He's doing winger for winger, left back for left back, right back for right back. It's always the same, which you can always tell that's going to happen. Kandreva comes on or Barigi comes on. But yeah, tactical changes, team mentality, as well as maybe him complaining, as you've seen recently, him taking a dig at the board at the end of the season right after we beat Atalanta. That as well.
I think for me, the 3 things that need to be addressed. Number 1, for Milan, consistency is key. Milan has had more coaches in the last 10 years than probably any other team. You get a new coach every year. So I'm very glad to see that Stefano Pioli will be staying for another year and we're not bringing in Ralf Rangnick. Yes, Ralf Rangnick may be this revolutionary football, tactician, but from what Pioli has built, just to tear it all down again would just be absolutely terrible for the team. 2, Milan need to have better starts to the season. Milan are known for having poor starts to the season, and then in the second half of the season, we're always trying to catch ourselves in a race for European football. And we get the results, but we always fall short. Last season, we fell short to Champions League by 1 point. Had we played better at the start of the season, that wouldn't be an issue. So that is something that needs to be addressed. And another thing that I think needs to be addressed is Milan need to have experienced players come into the side. We have a lot of young players, and the young players have seemed to find their niche in this team. Theo Hernandez knows what he needs to do. Benacer knows what he needs to do. Romagnoli is capable in the back. Donnarumma, experience. But the thing that Milan was lacking at the beginning of the season was mentality. As you pointed on, team mentality is a very important thing for a football club. And when Zlatan came in through that door in January, he instilled this winning mentality into them. In the first half of the season, you watch a Milan game and you see Milan go down 1-0 and you'd be like, that's the game right there. Like, we're not going to score. But now when you watch Milan and Milan goes down 1-0 or even 2-0, you're like, they're going to find a way to come back. It happened against Spal. We went down 2-0. We managed to get a 2-2 draw. Very lucky, but without that mentality, we could have just let the game die at 2-0. Same thing with against Juventus. We went down 2-0, managed to score 4 goals. The mentality has changed, and it's very, very important. As to the negatives that I'd like to touch on, I think that Serie A needs to go back to the drawing board for VAR and the handball situation, which has been a bunch of BS for teams all across the board. I think that the handball interpretation needs some review. There are just certain instances where the handball is just not a handball. Like, player cannot do anything. For instance, if a player is jumping to head the ball and it hits their arm, when you jump, your arms are naturally going to go up, whether you like it or not. So that's something that needs to be checked and addressed. Serie A, PR needs to do better.
Oh yeah.
They they had the horrible incident with the monkey campaign against
Yeah.
racism. Um, it's just like, why would you choose to have a monkey represent this combating of racism when there's players like Mario Balotelli getting called a monkey? Players like
Yeah.
Koulibaly, like that was just not the way to do it. And I think the other issue is the racism in Serie A. I think that Serie A needs to have punishments for when fans racially abuse players. And Serie A should allow players to make that decision that if they're being racially abused, whether they want to leave the pitch or continue playing. We saw earlier this season that Mario Balotelli had that issue and his Brescia teammates were like, dude, you have to like keep playing. Like, why are you trying to walk off the field? Like, I think that's just very inconsiderate because they don't know what he's experiencing because they're not him. Racism is a very nasty thing, and we don't condone any of that. So I think
Yeah.
those are the three negative things that Serie A needs to, go back to the drawing board for the next season. But I mean, other
As well
than
as
that, I think. Mhm.
I was gonna say, as well as the media and journalists as well, because there was an incident with the Black Friday with Lukaku and Smalling
Yeah,
being used as well.
yeah. Again, PR in Italy. I mean, Milan struggles with this too. Like every week there's a report that there's a fight going on between Maldini and Gazidis, and that stuff's just not necessary. Like, yeah, there's gonna be drama. Like this is Italy. There's drama, but keep it condensed to a level where it's not like a circus. Like I feel like this Serie A season, a bunch of the media and a bunch of the news that has come out has just made Serie A seem like a circus, and it's bad because we already get a bad reputation because Juventus wins the league 9 times in a row, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's a farmers' league. It's boring. Juventus is going to win anyway. Why should we watch?" But I think Serie A is one of the best, most entertaining leagues ever. Um,
Yeah, it's
just think
starting to.
about right.
Oh,
Just think about yeah. Go ahead.
uh, okay, I was gonna say, yeah, it's starting to shift from like the old myth of, oh, well, it's a slower defensive league, to now
Hmm.
look at what Atalanta's doing, 98 goals, to you're seeing 7-0s, 4-0s, 4-4s, 3-3s, 2-2s. Or you're seeing a bunch of
Exactly.
different results. So it's shifting to more like an attacking base, but still more defensive. But it's no
Hmm.
longer being just this defensive league.
Definitely. Yeah, I was just gonna say, you can see the shift and the change from Serie A. Um, again, with the high-scoring games, 4-2, 3-4, 7-0, 6-0. It's just very entertaining, but the PR and the media is giving Serie A a bad rep, and in order for Serie A to grow as a brand, um, that needs to be more professional. Stefano Pioli handled the media's BS perfectly. He never complained. He never said anything about his job or anything that was going to harm the team. Um, Conte with his complaining, like, the guy has a point for certain extents, but it's like there's a time and a place. Like your press conference after a game isn't when you should be doing this rant about the organization and the higher ups
Yeah.
that are at your club. But you got to feel for the guy. He has a point. Like his team and his players were not protected this season when it came to things like that. For example, the Lukaku Black Friday situation. Like there was no protection to that. Like we had to call it out before Serie A was like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. That's bad.
Yeah, as well as also the his complaints about scheduling, with us not getting
Hmm.
that much rest compared to other teams.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing you can really do about it. Like those are just the cards that you're, handled with in life, so deal with it. Uncle Sharma says Nigerian or Ghanaian jollof.
I've
Ricky?
only ever had Nigerian because my family's Nigerian, so.
Agreed. I've only had Ghanaian because my family's Ghanaian, so maybe someday I'll try it. But for now, that's just my opinion. But yeah, very, very interesting Serie A season once again. Thank you, Ricky Buzz, for doing this Serie A season review with me. Make sure you guys
welcome,
go
bro.
follow him on Twitter. You can tell him your Twitter handle.
At Buzz_QS.
Okay, and you can subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is simply just Ricky Buzz. I put his channel in the description box. So yeah, this has been your boy Milano Miguel and Ricky Buzz. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Peace.